Italy's political crisis is one of the economic problems that Europe is facing. Let me show you exactly the sort of thing that fortuitously Barbie led us into. Now, the Italian economy, let's start with the Italian economy. Well, we know that the Italian economy is pretty much flat, bordering on stagnant since the beginning of the year. And with today's worsening political situation and a banking crisis that has not fully been resolved. Far from it. Most people you speak to who'll talk to you privately will say that the Italian banking system is a basket case. No wonder Conte, the outgoing Prime Minister, says it could all spiral further. And then you've got the confrontation over the backstop, setting the stage for Prime Minister Boris Johnson's meetings with Germany and Macron. And you've got the whole question of the UK and Brexit. Now, there is no doubt that Britain is now moving inexorably towards a no-deal Brexit. Why do I say that? Because Johnson writes a 4-page letter describing the Northern Ireland backstop as being undemocratic. Donald Tusk replies in a tweet basically saying, no, you live with the backstop or nothing. He has made it absolutely clear if the backstop doesn't go, he is going to force Britain out without a deal. It is very difficult to see a way out of that Brexit. Now, if all that was bad enough, well, let's just throw into this miserable maelstrom the Bundesbank warning of a recession, a perfect storm of factors, entirely German-related. They are including trade wars, declining auto sales, a politically weak government. Angela Merkel is far from strong as she heads out of office in just a couple of years' time. France and Spain are facing problems too. Well, Mohamed El-Erian is here to say, what was your number that you said for Europe, that you said for recession?
70%.
70%.
Yes.
You've baked the cake.
I have. Look, a year ago, people were saying 2% growth for this year. Now we're going sub-1. At sub-1, you risk stall speed. You're simply not going fast enough. You just named the 5 largest economies in Europe. They're all having problems. Who's going to compensate for that? And then look at Germany, the predictable, the stable economy. They've had to revise the growth projection from 1.4 to recession. These are massive moves, and they just tell you the momentum is disappearing.
Right. So is it possible that the German finance minister, who yesterday you'll have seen talked about stimulus worthy of the last recession, that could pull Germany round?
So should they do it? Absolutely. They have the need. They have the wallet, and interest rates are negative. Not doing it is irresponsible. But doing it requires political agreement. And the political situation in Germany does not easily allow for that. So I think we'll get something, but it'll be rather small, and it certainly won't move the needle for the Eurozone as a whole.
Right, well, as we continue, you can join in this discussion and have your view. Which of the most serious economic crisis? Is it Brexit? Is it Italy, or is it Germany and recession? Vote accordingly at cnn.com/join, and we'll leave this up as we continue our discussion. With this, though, with Brexit, if the UK leaves on October 31st without a deal, how damaging and devastating do you see it as being?
So I think in the short term, there will be a cost to take. And I think a lot will depend on whether you get a transition agreement, something that says, OK, you're leaving, that's the destination, we've agreed on it, but we're going to give you a bit of a journey to get there. And I think you and I think that when push comes to shove in last-minute discussions, you're going to get that. I think the worst outcome, Richard, for Britain and for the EU, if we get another 3 years of nothing. That is the worst thing.
But all of this is bad enough with the 5 largest economies in trouble. But we're also getting a new commission and a new president of the council. So Juncker and Tusk are yesterday's men, and their commission and their council. It feels like this European crisis, dead man walking. It's going to happen. It seems almost inexorable.
So you're also getting a new president of the ECB, the European Central Bank. You're also getting a new governor of the Bank of England. You're also getting a new managing director of the IMF. There are many, many changes. I think that
We don't know who the IMF person is.
We do. Well, we do. We have a European candidate, and it will go to Europe. I do think, if you're going to get a crisis, it will start in Italy. And I'm glad you used the word spiral. Economists have a rather vulgar term for it. They call it the death spiral. Why? People worry, borrowing costs go up, the debt gets worse, people worry more about the banks. What does that do? Make people worry even more, and you get into the spiral. But today, the markets did better in Italy. Risk spreads tightened. Why? Because they believe the ECB will once again come to the rescue.
But this takes us back to the bad old days of 2008, 9, 10, where central bankers were left to do all the hard work. And we were told by people like you that that couldn't continue.
And look at us today. We have 16 trillion of bonds at negative yield. People are willing to lend government and pay for the privilege. That breaks things. It doesn't break things immediately, but over time, it breaks the system. So we're getting to the limits of how much central banks can and should do.
I realize that you're not a market strategist in the sort of the dollar's up, the Dow is down, but those people who believe that after the next strong rally, that it's basically a Pyrrhic rally, and that really there is something very, very, very nasty awaiting us in a couple of years' time. Do you subscribe to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people, take advantage of what the markets have given you and what the central banks have given you. Put it in the bank. Don't overextend yourself. It's much better to miss the next leg of the rally, because ultimately it's unsustainable. Asset prices are up here, fundamentals are down here. The difference has been central banks. If fundamentals go this way, the central banks are not going to be able to keep asset prices up here. So there's a limit to how much we can decouple finance from the economy. We did it once in 2006, 2007, and it didn't end well. So I tell people, be careful at this stage.